The average turnover rate in many construction companies, as far as hiring employees, is between 38 and 40%. What if you could cut that rate in half, get it to around 18%, and really nail the process of attracting, screening, hiring, and then retaining employees? We talk about today with Justin White, the president of K&D Landscaping. I'm delighted to welcome Justin back to the show. His company over the last 2 years has grown from 5 million to 10 million, a 100% increase, and he's having extremely great success hiring and retaining folks. And so I'd like you to listen to this episode of Construction Genius so that you can get some clear tips on how you can be more successful. And the one big takeaway that I have from this interview is how the hiring process is very similar to a sales and marketing process when you're going out and getting new clients. And I think this mindset shift will be extremely helpful to you when you're going through the hiring and the retention process in your business. Anyway, this is a great interview with Justin. I appreciate you listening today. You're going to get tons of great takeaways from this. So if you are driving, don't take notes. But if you're not driving, get ready to take notes. Thank you for listening to Construction Genius. Feel free to give us a review wherever you get your podcasts and a rating. Contact me on my website, ericanderton.com, and on LinkedIn, Eric Anderton. Have a great day. This is Eric Anderton, and you're listening to Construction Genius, a leadership masterclass. Thomas Edison said that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. If you're a construction leader, you know all about the perspiration, and this show is all about the 1% inspiration that you can add to your hard work to help you to improve your leadership. All right, welcome back to the show, Justin. It's great to have you on Construction Genius again.
Well, thanks, Eric. It's great to be with you again, and I'm excited to talk about some pretty pressing issues and challenges that we're facing in the construction industry today.
Right on. You know, we were chatting offline just a minute ago, and in the last couple of years, you've experienced some incredible growth.
We have. You know, we've been very fortunate with our dedicated clients and our great employees that have been driving our growth. And so over the last 2 years, from 2017 to 2019, we went from about 5 million up to 10 million in revenue. So it's been 100% growth for us.
Okay, so I know a lot of folks who are listening to this, they may not have gone through 100% growth in the last couple of years, but with the construction boom, there's definitely been some growth. And one of the deepest challenges that most construction companies have is finding qualified help both in the field and the office. What's your experience been with that?
It is our biggest challenge we've identified for 2020. It's really the one thing that's going to hold us back from growing further. It's our capacity to serve our clients at the high quality, high professional level that we've set in the past. So as you grow, it's really easy for your quality and your relationships to skew off course. So for us, identifying the best talent in the industry and making sure that we get them on our team is really our number one priority this year. And when you do start to dilute your team with talent because you're growing so quickly, the impact can not only impact your bottom line, but it can impact your growth and your client experience.
That's interesting, that idea of the word dilution, because I think that's definitely one of the ideas a lot of construction companies have is they have like these 3 tiers of folks. You've got your A teams, your B teams, and then your C teams, and sometimes you're always juggling those around, moving them from job site to job site, trying to manage the client relationship. So that can be very much a challenge. Let me ask you this then, and we'll get into some of the statistics here, but what is your most effective strategy for attracting good talent to your organization in a deeply competitive marketplace for talent?
Great question. So some of our tactics that we've employed, first off, we've shifted our marketing focus. Our entire marketing plan went from client-centric and client-focused to candidate and employee focused. So we're spending about 70 to 80% of our marketing dollars towards attracting employees because the clients are pouring in and we have so much work that we don't need to do a lot of marketing to get more clients. We need to do marketing to get more employees.
Okay, so let me stop you there, because I think it's extremely important to have that mindset shift that you're actually marketing. It's a marketing activity to attract people to your organization in the same way that you would market with clients. Have you always had that mindset, or did that just come upon you as you've grown in your leadership? Tell me about that a little bit.
Yeah, I have not always had that mindset. I was very customer focused in my earlier years, but over the last 2 to 3 years, I've realized that the focus of our marketing efforts can actually accomplish both. They can put us out there for clients and employees. But when you start to actually focus on what candidates are looking for, and you start to say, what is our ideal candidate and where are they going to be spending their free time? Where are they going to be shopping? Where are their eyes going to be where we can catch them and, put a quick plug in for K&D. And that's the shift that we've done is we've really, it's a mindset shift, and it's paid off for sure. We've definitely improved our awareness within our industry and within our community.
So give me a couple of specific examples of this sort of marketing mindset from the hiring perspective. Where have you put yourself out so that people who you're looking for can see the K&D name and be attracted to the company?
Yeah, so it's really a multi-focused approach. So we're going, all of our trucks, they all have now hiring on them. They all have core values on them. That's kind of something most people do. Then the next is we've really started to push onto the radio. A lot of, we think all of the people that we want to hire are currently employed. We're not wanting to go after our competitors' rejects who are unemployed right now. So we're going after people who are currently employed. It's a really fine line because we're very against the idea of poaching. So we'll never go onto another job site and just approach another company's employees. It's against our core values. But what we will do is we'll put it out on the radio, and we won't talk about, hey, we're hiring, come apply. We'll say, K&D is doing this community beautification, or, K&D is doing this event. And we've it's a soft sell. It's, talking about who we are, what we are, and our culture. And the idea is the right people are going to hear that and be attracted to that.
Have you seen a direct correlation between the radio advertising and the people who you are interviewing and hiring?
Definitely. The radio advertising is brought a lot of candidates our way. And most of the radio advertising they're bringing frontline employees, the guys that are out in the field, they're listening to the radio on the job site.
Right.
Those are the guys we're targeting on the radio ads. But on the other side, we found that the job board posting has been a good spot to find employees. Through Indeed has been our biggest. Indeed. That's been and we've found frontline employees all the way up to project managers on Indeed.
Let's talk about that a little bit. Why have you found Indeed compared to what for you guys has been effective, particularly, when you're looking at things like project managers?
Yeah, it's hard to say. Indeed has just a really simple format and platform. The operating system of Indeed is really simple. There's not a ton of algorithms like some of the other ZipRecruiters and some of the bigger, monster and job boards. Indeed's simple, easy to use. The app's really easy for applicants and for employers. So I think the ease of use and the fact that it's basically free,
right,
very attractive. And it's a professional platform where you can, communicate through it, and provides a lot of tools for the employer.
Okay, so it sounds like from the marketing perspective, you're doing multiple things. You've got obviously we're hiring on the trucks with your core values. You've got this radio strategy, which I think is a pretty interesting one, and specifically targeted to the frontline folks.
Correct.
And then you've got the Indeed strategy as well. Any other strategies as far as attracting that you found to be effective?
Yeah, one huge one is we have a community beautification campaign. So over the last 3 years, we've beautified about 26 different sites, nonprofits, schools, and other facilities that can't afford to enhance their landscapes. All volunteer, no cost. K&D has gone in and enhanced those. And what we've done is we've gotten a ton of coverage from our local newspaper, from local agencies and other places that have pushed out a big thank you for us. We recently were awarded the Business of the Year by our local business chamber, which is pretty cool for a landscape company to get that. Usually it's more of like a Kaiser Permanente or a health insurance or something.
Yes. So tell the audience where you're out of.
So we're out of Watsonville, California.
Okay, so that's relatively close to Silicon Valley and
mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're right over the hill, about 35, 40 minutes from San Jose.
Okay.
And so we have a lot of business that comes our way from the big tech, the executives. A lot of them live over in our area. We have Carmel, Pebble Beach,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
other high-end areas within our reach. So it's a great little spot we're at. But when you get that kind of publicity and that kind of free press coverage in the local papers, it drives the right type of people to your organization. People want to be a part of a movement. They want to be a part of something that beautifies and enhances their community, not just another business. So I think we're creating a differentiation, obviously not only for clients but for employees as well when they see that in the press.
So it's interesting because with the beautification process and strategy, that's something where you have to give before you get.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And how long have you been doing that?
So we started in late 2016. So it's been a little over 3 years.
And how long did it take you to see some results from that?
A solid year. I mean, the first year we didn't get much going, but it's kind of like this flywheel that the more you do, the quicker it goes, the more press you're getting. We've won like 4 different awards for stuff that I didn't even know about, these volunteer awards through the county parks. It's a CPRS. It's a statewide organization, County Parks Recreation Services, and a few others. So we've been recognized by our peers and by other members of the community for our efforts. And that's been really rewarding for us and very rewarding for the employees who have been involved with these projects.
That's great. So as far as attracting, what hasn't worked for you guys? What have you done where you thought it might work and then you tried it and it was like, no, that didn't work?
So, for us, recruiting, hiring a recruiter has not been successful.
Watch out, headhunters.
Yeah, the headhunters. Sorry, guys. No, for the right industries and I think the right positions. We have a different culture. If you come into our board meetings, if you come into our staff meetings, you would not believe that you're in a landscape company. We have a really high level of accountability. We review our key performance indicators weekly in front of the entire management staff. I think people that come in from larger landscape organizations, nationwide companies, they're able to fly a little more under the radar at those larger companies, and they come into our organization, and it's just a lot of accountability. We don't micromanage, but we expect you to know your numbers, and we'll help you out on that. So we've had some failures around that area. They're the most expensive hires to make. And my advice would just be, when you're hiring those people, make sure they fit your core values, make sure they fit your culture, because they may look great on paper and they may have the best resume, but when it comes down to day-to-day interaction, do they really mesh with your culture?
That's excellent. So that leads us to the next question, really is this idea of screening. It's one thing to attract a bunch of candidates in the door. I think a lot of times where the struggle begins is, how do you start screening through these so that you minimize sort of the drop off once you've done the hiring? Give us something on your screening process.
Yeah, and this is important, Eric, because if you're doing everything right, you should be getting anywhere from 20 to 40 applications per open position.
Okay.
We have 6 open positions right now. So we're hiring every day, all day.
And what positions are you hiring for right now?
So we're hiring for account manager on our maintenance. We're hiring project managers.
Right.
We have a booming commercial construction bid build department. We're hiring project managers there. We're hiring project engineers there. We are hiring foremen, and we're also hiring irrigation techs, along with, just basic laborers who may or may not have any landscape knowledge. We want to get you in the door. We want to train you up so you can one day become a foreman. So
Okay.
we're hiring all up and down the organization.
That's very interesting because, obviously there's multiple levels of qualification that are required there. So give us something about what's working for you guys in the screening process.
Correct. So the first thing we do is we try to get back to that application immediately, as quick as possible. My goal is 5 minutes because, if they apply, they're at their computer and they're ready to take a phone call. So the goal is, if they apply, you call them immediately. And we have a series of knockout questions for each position. So right there, we screen about 50% of the candidates who apply through the first phone call.
How did you develop the knockout question list, those questions? How do you do that?
We sit down with our managers and the people who are going to be managing that position. So for an irrigation tech, we need them to be able to explain to us in a few sentences, how do you troubleshoot a valve that's not working?
Okay.
Them to be able to explain, how would you program a controller with a drip irrigation and native plants in sandy soil.
Okay.
So we ask very specific questions.
It's good. It's good. It's good.
Yeah.
So this is the thing is like so many people, they hire and hope. And so this is kind of trying to get away from that hope bit and at least get a baseline level of technical aptitude. Is that what the knockout questions are looking for?
Correct. Technical aptitude and just the ability to communicate. So that's why we do the phone call via a digital screening, a yes or no kind of question. We like to phone call people because you may talk to someone and over the course of the conversation, they may not have everything that they need for that position, but you realize they have a very strong cognitive ability. They have great communication skills, and this person could make a great customer relationship manager, but maybe not an irrigation technician. So through the phone call, you can find out what type of person this is. And of course, a lot of people are probably listening to this saying, well, that'd be great if I had enough applications. So it's important that you do the marketing piece and you get enough applications so you can actually have enough applicants to screen and you're not doing what we call fog the mirror, where basically if someone's breathing, they're hired. That's a dangerous way to operate.
So let me just get on my soapbox here for a moment. If you're going to look at hiring as a sales process and a marketing process, let me just give the audience some tips here. You cannot control productivity, but you can control activity. So if you focus on quality activities, such as you were talking about, Justin, with the radio ads, with the beautification process, with the advertising in the right place, enough quality activity should give you the productivity or the volume of applicants that you need in order to be able to screen and hire successfully.
Couldn't have said it better myself. That's perfect.
All right, I'm off my soapbox now. Okay, so, but I just like that mindset, man. It's a selling mindset, not just for getting projects, but for getting people. So it's killer. It's really good. So you've got this 5-minute phone call. What's your next step in the screening process?
It's very important that you have one person in charge of this hiring process.
For the whole thing, for all positions?
Yeah, for everything. You need one person that's managing it, which we call the hiring manager.
Okay.
We don't have enough necessarily to have a full-time hiring manager. So our HR manager handles the hiring as well. Now, they don't do the entire hiring process, and I'll get into that here in a second, but they do manage the flow of all applicants.
Okay.
So the applicants getting the call back, getting the email back, and we're communicating properly because you never know when you don't hire someone. You may want to go back to them in a few months and see if they're still available. So it's really important that you maintain a professional relationship throughout the process.
Okay, so that's really good right there because they may not be a fit today, but they could be a fit down the road.
Absolutely. Yep.
So with the hiring manager, and like you said, you may not have the volume to have a full-time person, but at least assign someone to it. Is the hiring manager, in your case, making those screening phone calls, or is someone else doing that?
It's kind of a team effort depending on our bandwidth, but we do have an HR assistant that typically is making the phone calls right now.
Okay, so then here's my concern there. Let's say you're hiring for a technical role and you have an HR assistant making those phone calls. Do they have the competency necessary in that 5-minute screening to be able to pick up any subtleties or any of those technical differences, or are they very clear on what they're looking for?
Yes, they're clear, but you're completely right that ideally I would like to make every phone call. It would be nice if you had someone that had a little more, skill and a little more experience with the field to make some of these phone calls, but you do have to, kind of understand where people's bandwidth and time is best spent.
Okay.
So we do a lot of training, but I guarantee that we've probably let a few slip through the cracks through this process. It's something that at this volume, you're going to have to just accept.
Okay. So with that being said, after the screening phone call, what's your next step?
So the next step, if they get through that, is to set up an in-person interview.
Okay.
In-person interview is going to be focused primarily on behaviors and culture. What are their driving values? What type of person are they? What motivates them? And we really try to dig into the soft skills and behaviors part of the process.
So this is my question. And so someone walks in, right? And it's like dating, right? They've got their shine on their shoes. They've got their best foot forward. They're not going to tell you about how dysfunctional they are when you're not looking and all this kind of stuff. So how do you distinguish between someone's, shiny, happy face and the real person?
Great question. And honestly, it's very difficult and it takes a lot of experience. So We ask a lot of interesting questions, like what was your favorite thing to do in high school? What was
Okay.
your favorite subject? We get
I'm
some.
not sure. I'm not sure you'd want to hire me if you asked me what my favorite thing to do in high school was.
Well, we don't make the decision on that, but the idea is out of that whole like predisposed, like I have these set of answers that I'm going to give this person.
Right. Okay, fair enough.
Right. And you get to know each other and you kind of break down that wall. It takes a while to break down that wall, but once you get past it, you start to open up and you can create a pretty good conversation.
So what do you think you're doing differently in the hiring process from other companies? Because again, let's just go to some statistics here. In your industry, what is the average turnover rate?
It's about 40%.
Okay, and what are you guys at the moment?
We're about 18% on a rolling 12-month basis right now.
Okay, so that's half of what the industry average is. So that's a significant difference. So what do you think is one of the things that you're doing from once you've done the screening, you're in the hiring process? What's different about what K&D is doing?
Well, first off, we're pushing that number down. We'd like to be in the 10s or lower on the turnover.
Okay, right on.
But it's a work in progress. So what we're doing differently, I think, first off, mentioned in the screening, we do the screening, we do an in-person interview, and then we have them come back to the office on a different date and time and interview with a separate person before we make any decisions.
Okay.
It's really important that we have 2 different in-person interviews on different days at the location of our business.
Why is that important?
It makes sure that they're punctual. It requires them to schedule multiple meetings and show up on time.
Okay.
It also gives you the chance to interview people at different times in the week. And if you try to do everything in one day, you may see a completely different person than what they are on a day-to-day basis. So it's important to do multiple interviews with multiple different people.
What do you do if they're late? What does that tell you?
We're pretty strict. I mean, we have a 5-minute buffer, but if you're more than 5 minutes late, I mean, it's over. You're out. Yeah.
So I'm a construction company owner. I need to hire guys. I'll take someone who's 10 minutes late. Why only 5 for you guys?
It's just, we feel like you said, they're in their best.
Yeah, right.
They're the best, the best foot forward. They're showing up as you're seeing them the best they'll ever be is what I think. So if they show up 5 minutes late to the interview, they're going to show up 20 minutes late to work. It's just kind of that principle of it. If I personally am going to interview, I'm going to be there 30 minutes early to make sure I don't hit traffic.
There you go.
You got to allow for it. And if someone doesn't have that ability to know that they need to be there on time, and we make it pretty apparent that if they're late, they will not be hired. We let them know.
Yep.
It's just principle. It's a core value kind of thing for us.
So then you've got 2 different interviews, 2 different people. They're doing it separately. That, if I'm hearing you right?
Correct. Separate.
Okay. So what happens when you interview someone and one person says they're awesome, the other person says they suck and don't hire them? Does that ever happen?
Yeah, it happens from time to time. It's somewhat rare, but when that does happen, we typically don't hire them. We're very picky. So if someone, kind of the person that feels that they're not really a fit, and the person that feels that they're a fit, will have a conversation. And we have yet to come out of that conversation, without a agreed upon decision. We're always able to come to a decision, and more often than not, it's to not hire than to hire. That's usually the case.
So you've got a sort of a hire slow philosophy. Am I hearing that right?
Definitely. Hire slow, fire fast is our methodology.
So that's, again, that sounds good in theory. Everybody's nodding their heads and wishing it was like that. But man, here I am. I'm running 100 miles an hour. I've got clients breathing down my neck. I got projects to build. What do I do?
That's the problem that we face every single day, is we run out of capacity. And so the best thing to do is to just start pouring resources into attracting candidates. And you need to just get those candidates through the door, because no matter how badly you need to hire that project manager or that foreman, a bad hire will cost you so much more money in the long term.
Yeah. So I know the statistics out there for a bad hire is it's at least for a leadership role. It's at least, if you hire them, it costs you at least their annual salary to make a bad hire. And,
Yeah.
and if not more. So it's very, very intense there. So let me ask you this. You've gone through the hiring process. At what point do you start using, you do assessments or anything like that in the hiring process?
Yeah, we do. We do those right off the bat. So we have people take a behaviors assessment that we've customized for
Uh-huh.
our core values.
How long does that take?
It takes only about 5 or 6 minutes. It's
Oh,
very,
okay, so it's a sort of a down and dirty. Let's get a sense of this person.
yeah. And we get a lot of information from that report. And it's not something that we make decisions on. It's just another piece to the puzzle of how we, review our applicants.
Okay, so this is fundamental, I think, too. What is the balance between the interview, the assessment, any other, pre-qualifications? How do you guys break that down?
Yeah, so I mean, the screening is kind of, we don't really use that. Once they're past the screening, that's done.
Yep.
We look at the behaviors and we dig into the core values and the values of that individual.
Mm-hmm.
You'll hear me continue to say this. The values are more important to us than the technical knowledge and technical skill. So that's first and foremost. So we utilize the behaviors assessment and a set of questions that I've developed along with the interview method from Jeff Smart.
I can hear it. The book is who?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Yep. It's funny because I was talking to one of my clients this morning and he's building up a scorecard from the book Who.
Yeah. The scores are very important.
Would you recommend that book?
Highly recommend for anyone that's hiring or anyone that's in a management position. It's a great book to read.
I deeply agree with that. I will put a link in the show notes. I deeply, deeply, deeply agree with it. That is a great book. Thank you.
Great book. And thanks to Jeff for putting out that great information. He also has on his website, great little 1 to 2 minute videos that if you're getting ready to do an interview, do one of those refresher videos. I have all my managers do it. It's really a night and day when you're getting ready to walk into an interview.
Okay, yeah, I tell you, that book, if you're a leader in a construction company, that book should be on your shelf. You should read it and you should use and apply that information. Thank you. Okay. All right. Now, what is the relationship in your eyes between once you've hired someone, you've made that decision, there's this onboarding process, right? Perhaps the honeymoon, right? So you've dated, you've decided to put a ring on it, and now you're in the honeymoon phase. How is it that you get through the honeymoon phase and don't get divorced? What are you doing there?
So it kind of goes like the first 2 weeks are the most critical. And then the first 90 days are very critical as well. But in those first 2 weeks, you have to think about it. An employee's coming into an organization. They've put a lot of time and effort through the interview process. And it's a scary time. I mean, they're going to a place they know pretty much no one. So it's important that we give them a buddy and we give them someone that they can call and say, hey, do you guys get lunch or do you bring your own lunch? Should I wear, steel-toed boots or safety toe or no, it's like all these little questions that go through someone's mind before they come to the job site. It's important to help them feel comfortable the very first day. If it's a manager and a project manager, which you're providing them a truck, a cell phone, a laptop, you want to have everything there at their desk, ready to go, first day. You don't want them to have to worry about all this technology and everything else. So it's just being prepared and bringing someone on how you would like to be brought on. So, we always think about that. If I was joining a new company, what would I like to have? And instead of throwing a giant manual on their desk, tie balloons to their chair, make it a celebration when they come in and really make them feel like everybody is so excited and can't wait for them to come on board that they're really an asset to the team. So you want to make them feel special because they truly are special.
So you've got the 2 weeks and then the 90 days.
Yep, 90 days. The most important process is the 90 days. And we really have a strong probationary process. We have a monthly check-in with them throughout that 90 days. And then at the 90 days, we do a full review. We sit down, we talk about how they're doing. We give them feedback. We ask them to give us feedback. And that's the time where we really identify, is this going to be a long-term fit for us? And we want to make sure that they're at the right pay. So oftentimes we give people a raise at 90 days because they come on and they show us what they're made of. And we want to validate that. And we're always talking, what are they adding in value to the company? We need a match in compensation.
Okay, so then if you can come up with a number here, that'd be great, but you might not be able to. What is your average time after you've hired someone when you've made a mistake, when you guys say, hold on, we blew it here, we hired the wrong person? How long does that typically take you?
2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yeah, it's quick.
How does that feel for you when you when you know, let's say you've been involved in the process pretty heavily, you know you've made a mistake. How does that feel?
It definitely is a sense of failure and a sense of you let that employee down, because really, they upheld their end of the bargain to some degree. They came, they showed up, if that's the case. But I always think we should have figured out that person wasn't going to be a good fit during the interview process. So I really feel like it's on the company when that doesn't work, not the applicant. But, there's cases where they don't show up on time or they call in sick the second day, and obviously that's not going to go over well. But it's a sense of failure. It's a sense that you let them down because, they made a big decision to come work for you, quit their job, and then it doesn't work out. So, there's been less of that recently, but it's definitely not a good feeling from an ownership standpoint.
So that's interesting, because I think that sense of failure is what often holds people back from firing people or letting them go, is because they don't want to admit that they've made a mistake and they're hoping that somehow things are going to stop or things are going to get better.
Yeah. And I've made that mistake many times where you have this gut feeling like, this really isn't the right person, but the amount of work that we put in to hire them and onboard them is so great that I think we can coach them out of this. Right.
Right.
And that's rarely the case. Even if it lasts 6 months or even a year, it's typically not a long-term fit. If you have that gut feeling, it's good to really explore that.
Yeah. It's interesting because it's funny how many conversations over the years I've had with my clients, and they're struggling with someone, and I just look at them and I say, hey, listen, man, if we're having the same conversation in 6 months, can I have your permission to yell at you? Because we shouldn't be having this ongoing conversation about someone. Either they're a fit or they're not.
Yeah. Well, as a coach, if you see it showing up in your coaching meetings on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, reoccurring, one name, then that there's an issue with that person.
Yeah. And I'll put it this way. I think one thing that I see in a lot of companies and I'm really calling this out with people lately, is that companies allow underperformers to have them by what I call the short and curlies. Back in England, where I'm from, when I was a kid, so-and-so's got so-and-so by the short and curlies. And what that means is they've got leverage on you in some way or another. And my firm conviction is there should be no employee that has undue leverage on a company, whether it's on the basis of them being necessary in order to finish a project or because they have relationships or anything like that. No one should have leverage over you and in a negative way. There's a reciprocal relationship between the employer and the employee. And as an employer, no one should have you by the short and curlies.
I totally agree. And unfortunately, in this industry, right, we have situations where you have a project manager who may be the only one that understands what's going on a large project, and the idea of letting them go is, it could totally bankrupt that job. It could ruin a client relationship.
Yep.
Unfortunately, there are situations where they have some tremendous amount of leverage. So the way I've gone about mitigating that is I'm always working with teams. So I'm always cross-training. If you have only one person in your organization that can do payroll, have that person train another person in the office. If you have only one person that can do estimating, have them train someone else. It obviously helps. So if they're out sick or out on vacation, they can fill in. It also makes that person, not in a negative way, but it makes them understand that, hey, if you are to leave, you have someone that can do your job. Or if you're getting out of line, this person can do the job. So that's how we've mitigated it. But I tell you, it's not a perfect world. And there's definitely situations right now that if I lost a certain person, it would create some havoc in the business.
Yep.
But
yeah. So when I say that, it is not a perfect world, and that doesn't mean you just go fire everyone who's got leverage over you in some way or another. I do think you made an excellent point there, and it made me think of sports analogies where everyone on the team understands that they're competing for a place in a positive way, and if they're not stepping up to the plate, there's other people who can take their role. And I'll speak to this one thing. I know there's a lot of companies who, because of the relationship, let's say a business development person has with a client or a group of clients, they sort of get free rein to behave in any way that they want. And in terms of that cross-training, it goes to this idea of making sure that you're cross-training relationships so that no one's like the relationship king in one account.
Yeah, we definitely see that a lot on the business development side and the client relationship management side.
That's excellent. So as you look at your current process for screening, for attracting, retaining, and hiring people, what would you like to change? What would you like to do differently?
So I think the biggest thing for us, I mentioned earlier, is I want to get back to people within 5 minutes of them applying. We're not doing that right now. We have so much going on. We're so busy day to day that we're lucky if we can make sure and get it back to everyone by the end of the day, if they were to apply that day. In a perfect world, I'd love to get back to people within 2 minutes.
Wow.
And it's in a matter of having, push notifications on your phone for your hiring manager.
Wow.
And just making sure that when someone applies, it's almost like an automatic phone call that comes up, and it's just boom. How's it going? I see you've just applied for our job. We'd love to screen you right now. Do you have 5 minutes?
Wow. Well, now 5 minutes. How did you come up with that number?
I think it's just, for me, it's you have them at a time where they're applying for jobs. They're in the mindset. Again, these people are working for other companies right now.
Yep.
So if you wait an hour or two, they may be at a job site. They may be with a client in their current position. They're not in the mindset to talk to you.
Wow.
You may find a situation where that employee has been working for a company for 10 years and they finally had enough. They applied for a job, but that's a short window, because within a few days, they may, have that conversation with their employer and work things out. And then you've lost that opportunity. They're no longer interested. So it's good to just strike while the iron's hot. They're ready to go. Talk to them, and then set up a meeting for the next day. Like, let's move quick. Let's get these people in.
So I really get the sense, which I think is pretty cool, of a real sort of sales mindset, where you want to sort of close the opportunity, and also a customer service mindset. Whereas, if you got a lead in the door, we're going to respond quickly to a lead. So if you get a hiring lead in the door, you're going to respond in the same kind of way.
Yeah. So you're picking up on that, and you're right on the point. I have really created the hiring process to mirror our customer experience process.
Interesting.
We have a great customer experience. We have fans of K&D because of how we treat them. Let's take those same tactics and same skills, and let's apply them to candidates. And so everything you're saying is exactly what I say to my team is, if you were to get a lead for the best job, the ideal client, you'd call them back in 5 minutes. So why don't we do the same for our candidates?
So that's a really nice little framework shift there. So take what you're doing with your clients, apply that to your hiring process, and see if you can increase the results through doing that.
Yeah, chances are, if you're hiring, it's because you are good at client management.
Interesting.
So, take that skill set, have your salespeople talk with your hiring manager, have some integration between the sales team and the HR side, because you have the skills on your team right now to hire the best people.
Wow.
You just need to apply them in a different format.
Yeah. So that is really great. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel necessarily. You just have to see what works in an analogous situation in your business, and then take those things over to the area that you're focused on.
Yeah, absolutely. And then lastly, like, one of the things that we talk about all the time is we talk about priority. And our priority goes like this. And if any of my clients are listening, I apologize in advance, but our first priority is our employees. Number one. So employees are number one. Clients are number two. Shareholders are number three. And in that order. And that's how we approach most challenges and capacity issues, is if we have to choose between servicing a client or helping out one of our employees, we're going to go to the employee first, because we know if they're taken care of, they'll service the client.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so wrapping up here, man, this is some good stuff. Lots of action items here. What are 3 actions, three things that a construction company can do right now to improve their ability to attract and screen, hire, and retain employees?
All right. First, make sure you have the best job posting, and you're framing the job posting to attract the people you want to attract. And I could go deep into that, but I'll just kind of leave it at that. Is make sure your job posting is attractive and is different than the other ones out there. So go and do some op research and see what your competitors are putting out there, and one up them on your job posting. Make it separate yourself. Number 2 is identify that screening process and that interview process Read Who by Jeff Smart. Create the scorecard for that position. Make sure you know who you're looking for. So often that we go out and hire people, we really have no idea what we're looking for. At the end of the day, we hire people that are like us, that we get along with, not people who are best for that position.
Right.
So make sure you identify and understand really who you're looking for at a deep fundamental level.
Excellent.
Number 3, have a clear onboarding plan,
Okay.
a plan for success, and make sure that you have that 90-day conversation with that employee, because there may be some serious issues that go unnoticed that will lead to that person leaving, when a quick conversation with yourself and them could avoid that. So it's job post. Make sure you have the most comprehensive and differentiation job posting out there. Have a great screening and interview process. Make sure you know who you're looking for. And finally, make sure you have the best onboarding system that makes that employee feel welcome and makes them want to stay around for a long time.
Excellent. Excellent. All right, dude, this has been killer.
Awesome.
Dude, this is awesome. So book recommendations off the top of our heads. Not the top of our heads, but during the interview, we've got this book, Who by Jeff Schwartz.
Yeah. Now, so I'm going to ask you one question as we sign off here, Justin. What is a current book or books that you are either reading now or you've read recently that you're going to recommend to our audience?
So I've got so many books. I read about 2 to 3 a month, but real quick, I'll give you 3 really good ones. And one's a classic. It's Good to Great by Jim Collins.
Yep.
It's just, for me, it's the best book out there for business.
Yep.
The next is going to be a book called Traction by Gino Williams, I think. But it's the whole idea of the EOS platform, Entrepreneurial Operating System. The book's great. It talks a lot about letting go of the vine, meaning, not micromanaging your team, and some great tactics on how to build a good leadership team.
Yeah, it's Traction, Get a Grip on Your Business by
Gino Wickham.
There we go.
Wickman or something like that.
Wickman.
We'll link in the show notes.
His last name, poor guy.
Okay.
And he has a lot of other books that I recommend his entire platform, including How to Be a Great Boss.
Nice.
The final book, and I think it talks to the current uncertainty that we're going through in our economic situation, our stock market, is Snowball by Warren Buffett. Talks all about, and this maybe is less of business, more about just overall personal finance and, how to conduct yourself. But the book really, it's a long, big book, but it has so much gold in there and so much great usable information. Those are the 3 I'd recommend. Kind of Good to Great, just fundamental business. Traction, it'll give you some really plug and play stuff for your business. And then Snowball, because, hey, if our personal finances are out of whack, we're not great business leaders.
It's fundamental. Okay. So
Everything will be in the show notes. Justin, this has been great. I tell you,
really appreciate your time. I hope people listen and take some tips here. And
as you continue on, I wish you well going from 18% to 10% on your retention.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on, Eric. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening to this episode of Construction Genius. Hope you found that 1% of inspiration to help you in the next few days. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star review on iTunes, share it with other construction leaders who you think would benefit, and always remember that the show is brought to you by Kick-Ass Meetings. I've been working with construction leaders since 2004, teaching them how to run extremely effective problem-solving meetings that gets their people collaborating, taps into their creativity, and to get yourself a free copy of the Kick-Ass Meeting Report, go to www.ericanderton.com/kickassmeetings. Grab yourself that free report, read it, use it in your business. You'll find it extremely useful. And thanks again for listening.